Greetings to one and all. This is Mrs. Aksha Solomon Sathe, and I'm studying in T.Y. Patil College of Education, Pimpri, Pune. And today I'm going to talk to you on sampling and its types. Well, when do you think you use the word sampling? That's when you have to do a research. And when do you do a research? When you are stuck with a problem. Now, this problem can be in any field, or it could be just something that you want to find the reason for, why a particular behavior is happening, or you want to just know the opinion of people regarding a particular topic. For all these things, we'll do research. Research is again a scientific way of solving your problem. Alright, so if you actually have a problem, then you would naturally have someone on which you have to conduct your research, or you have some particular target group on whom or because of whom the problem is being created, and you want to find out the reason. So basically, you cannot do your research alone. You need to do it on someone or on something. Alright, so for that we use a sample. Now, what is sample? How we can find the sample is all what we are going to see right now in this topic. So before we go to what is a sample, let's understand what's a population first. The term population means all members that meet a set of specifications or a specified criteria. That's, for example, if I say the population of India, it'll be defined as all the people residing in India. Every single person will be included in the population of India. Next, the population of Pune means all people living within the city limits or boundary. So when I talk about population of Pune, I'm talking about only and only the people living in Pune. That can be a boy, it can be a girl, it can be the old man, an adult, it can be a Jain, it can be a Christian, it can be a Hindu, it can be a Muslim. Every single person living or residing in the city of Pune will be termed as a population of Pune. A population of inanimate objects also can exist, such as all automobiles manufactured in Michigan in the year 2003. So all the automobiles manufactured in that particular place in this particular year will also be your population. So you will notice that actually the population is too huge. So how can you use the entire population to conduct your research? As a beginner researcher, you may think that yes, it's impossible. So that's where we need a sample. Now, how do you get a sample? We get the sample from the population that is there. Now, you should also know that every single person in the population is called as an element. We see a single member of any given population is referred to as an element. So over here, if this is an element, this one also is element, this is also an element, element, and element. All of them are elements. Every single person who is included in the population is called an element. Now, then what's a sample? So from this huge population, we carefully pick out a few people who are representative of the entire population, and that's where we get our sample. When only some elements are selected from a population, we refer to that as a sample. And so, can you see, from the elements, we pick out a few people who are perfect representatives of the population that we are concerned with. Once we get that small group, we work on that small group, and the results that we get, we generalize it to the entire population that is there. That makes us come to the next question, that is, so why can't a research happen for the entire population? Yes, it does happen, but not you and me, but the government sure does have a census that is taken. Now, a census is something when all elements are included, and that's what we call as a census. When the entire population is taken into consideration, that's when we will include it as a census and not a sample. Now, The accuracy of our estimates depend on the extent to which the sample is representative of the population to which we wish to generalize. Did you see that? How important it is for the sample to match the population that we are going to consider. So if you see in these three pictures, only this picture shows perfect representation of the population, because over here if you see, all are the same. Over here they have taken different people, but in this sample few people having certain characteristics are more, while some people having some other characteristics are less. It's not equal in number. Over here you will see there's perfect representation because they have taken perfect number of people of different characteristics who represent the population they belong to. So now, how do you get your sample? Well, researchers use two major sampling techniques. First is the probability sampling. Next is the non-probability sampling. Now, with probability sampling, a researcher can specify the probability of an element, that is a participant, being included in the sample. Whereas, with non-probability sampling, there is no way of estimating the probability of an element being included in a sample. In a probability sampling, there is all means and chances of being selected or being included in a sample. But that's just the opposite for non-probability sampling. So what are the different techniques? Probabilistic sampling includes stratified sampling, random sampling, systematic sampling, and cluster sampling. Whereas non-probabilistic sampling will include snowball sampling, convenience sampling, judgmental sampling, and quota sampling. Let's see what they are in detail. Now, first let's see about the probability sampling, where yes, every single member has an equal chance or an opportunity to be a part of the sample. Now, if the researcher's interest is in generalizing the findings derived from the sample to a general population, then probability sampling is far more useful and precise. Unfortunately, it is also much more difficult and expensive than non-probability sampling. So, if the researcher is really interested in perfectly generalizing the findings on the population that he has in mind, he surely has to use probability sampling, where in the sample you have every single character that's a perfect representation. What's probability sampling and the various types of it? Probability sampling. The first one, simple random sample. Simple random sampling is defined as a sampling technique where every item in the population has an even chance and likelihood of being selected in the sample. Here, the selection of items entirely depends on luck or probability, and therefore this sampling technique is also sometimes known as methods of chances. So, the researcher puts down the list of members that he wants to choose and he just picks them up in random, and that's why it's called just a simple random sample. Next, a systematic sample. Systematic sampling is a type of probability sampling method in which sample members from a larger population are selected according to a random starting point but with a fixed periodic interval. This interval, called the sampling interval, is calculated by dividing the population size by the desired sample. Nothing, it's just the same. But just that there is a systematic way of choosing it. Here we just pick out anyone from the list, but over here there is a particular starting point and then there's a systematic way. Over here, can you see they've left 2 and taken the third one, left 2 and taken the third one. So there is a systematic way of choosing them, but obviously it's again a random method. Next, stratified sample. Stratified random sampling is a method of sampling that involves the division of a population into smaller subgroups known as strata. In stratified random sampling or stratification, the strata are formed based on members' shared attributes or characteristics such as income or educational attainment. Well, what do you do in stratified random sampling? You put the list that you have in further groups like particular strata. For example, BA first year students, BA second year students, and BA third year students. So you have 5 groups, 5 strata that you have created according to the educational qualification that they have. Once you've put them into groups, from there you are going to just pick them up again on a random basis. Then let's go and see what's cluster sample. Well, cluster sampling is a probability sampling technique where researchers divide the population into multiple groups or clusters for research. Researchers then select random groups with a simple random or systematic random sampling technique for data collection and data analysis. So what happened here? Instead of a list, there is a group. Now the members in the group do not have particular characteristics or anything as such. They are just randomly put into groups, or we can call them as the clusters, and the researcher just selects the clusters on a random basis. So the only difference over here is in simple random sampling, you make a list and pick out the individuals. Here you're picking out groups. And also remember, there is no strata. Over here in the picture, can you see they have divided all the green separately and the blue separately and then picked out people, individuals from them? But over here, if you see, there are clusters which is made at a random and picked out also at a random. Let's go to the next. Now let's move on to non-probability sampling, where, well, you wouldn't have a chance to be a part of a sample because this is a very rough kind of a method that the researcher uses. Alright, so non-probability sampling is a sampling method in which not all members of the population have an equal chance of participating in the study, unlike probability sampling. Let's see the types and then we'll understand better what is a non-probability sampling and how it's different from probability sampling. Snowball sample. Snowball sampling is a popular business study method. The snowball sampling method is extensively used where a population is unknown and rare, and it is tough to choose subjects to assemble them as samples for research. This sampling technique can go on just like a snowball, increasing in size, well in this case, the sample size, till the time a researcher has enough data to analyze to draw conclusive results that can help an organization make informed decisions. So what does he do? He just keeps on picking out participants for his research work, and he keeps on picking out till he gets enough data that's required for the research type that he has in his mind. So that's called a snowball sampling. The sample keeps on increasing in size till the researcher is satisfied with the size of the sample. Alright, so next we have the quota sample. Now, quota sampling is defined as a non-probability sampling method in which researchers choose the individuals according to specific traits or qualities. They decide and create quotas so that market research samples can be useful in collecting data. So what do? Is they make a quota. Like for example, they will just pick out all the people who fall into particular minorities and make them as the sample. So the researchers made a quota and all the people who fall under that category are the ones who are being selected. Alright, next is your judgment sample. Now, judgmental sampling, also called as purposive sampling, is a non-probability sampling technique in which the sample members are chosen only on the basis of the researcher's knowledge and judgment. The process of selecting a sample using judgmental sampling involves the researchers carefully picking and choosing each individual to be a part of the sample. So over here, basically, the researcher knows the population very well, and so the researcher picks out that particular person or candidate to be a part of his sample. Next we're going to see is convenience sampling. Now, convenience sampling is defined as a method adopted by researchers where the researcher chooses members merely based on proximity and does not consider whether they represent the entire population or not. Using this technique, they can observe habits, opinions, and viewpoints in the easiest possible manner. So, you must have seen some surveys happening in malls or railway stations. Alright, over here the sample is just picked out. Anyone and everyone who is willing and ready to be a part of this sample can be a participant of this survey. So if you see in convenience sampling, the researcher is not worried or he is not bothered whether this sample that I have in my hand is really matching the population that I'm going to generalize my theories on. Alright, at his convenience, he will just pick out and go ahead with the sample. Alright, so that comes to the end of the types of sampling that we have. Now let's see what are the general steps that need to be taken when you make a sample. First thing, defining the population. It's very important. So before a sample is taken, we must first define the population to which we want to generalize our results. So without that, we cannot make a sample. Step 2, constructing a list. Before a sample is chosen randomly, it is necessary to have a complete list of the population from which to select. So here right now we are doing probability sampling. So in this you should and must have the list of the population that you have in your mind before you start selecting your sample. Now, third step is drawing the sample itself. After a list of population members has been constructed, various random sampling options are available, correct? Some common ones include tossing dice, flipping coins, spinning wheels, drawing names out of a rotating drum, using a table of random numbers, and using computer programs. So here it's really fun, right? A fun way of selecting the elements that you have in your list to be a part of your sample. So that's just a random sampling, alright? But for sure, the people that you pick out will be actual representatives of the population. Contacting members of a sample. That's very important. That's the last step. Failing to contact all individuals in the sample can be a problem, and the representativeness of the sample can be lost at this point. So when you have a sample and only those particular number of people are the people who are representing the population. So if you miss them, if they are not going to respond to you or get back to you or participate in your research, well, you will lose representativeness of the population that they are actually representing. So that's why you need to have a good rapport with the participants. Also, you need to keep in contact with them. And so, all the very best. I wish you all a great success in the research work that you are involved in. Keep adding on to the vast ocean of knowledge and never stop. Thank you so much for hearing me out. Hope you enjoyed and thanks for listening.